Hey guys, Scott from Rogers Farmstead here. Today we're going to do some real science and we're going to make goat milk soap right here in our kitchen using fresh goat milk from the farm. I'm going to show you behind me some of the stuff that we have to make goat milk soap. Alright, well the first thing you're going to need for fresh goat milk soap is goat milk. But you don't really want it in its liquid form straight from the goat. It's best to have it frozen. And so we will take the goat milk from the goat and freeze it overnight so that it's nice and frozen in these convenient little 13-ounce bags. The reason you want it frozen is the actual act of making soap is such a chemically heat-producing or exothermic reaction that it can actually burn or scald your milk if it's not super, super cold. So 13 ounces of frozen goat milk, and then you have your oils. So we have olive oil here, 15 ounces. We have 13 ounces of like a vegetable shortening and 12 ounces of coconut oil. And really you can use any oils you want. The key is making sure that you have the right ratios of fats. Coconut oil is a nice oil that can create a lot of bubbles and lather in your soap, whereas olive oil creates a nice stable hard soap. And then you have the star of your show, which is your lye, sodium hydroxide. You need about 6 ounces of this. This is an incredibly caustic chemical. This is literally what you get at the hardware store to clear out your pipes. So you have to be very careful using this, which is why we need rubber gloves and probably some safety goggles. You're going to need a nice metal bowl. You're going to need a bowl filled with ice. We also have essential oils. Essential oils are for the scent. And so today we're making something called Mom's Remedy, which is a mix of eucalyptus and peppermint. It smells kind of like Vicks when you're sick. And then for coloring, we use something called mica powders. These are cosmetic grade mica powders. So we're going to make a nice blue soap today. You can really use any colorant you want, but you want something that's going to be safe on the skin. So you don't want food coloring or something weird like that. And then you want your molds. And so we use these nice silicone molds. You can get these on Amazon or any bake store. These are great for candies or making any kind of baked goods, but they're also very great for soap. So we make a nice square and a circle. Soap making is incredibly persnickety, and so you really need to measure your ingredients well, so get a nice digital scale. You're going to need a nice digital thermometer that will help keep temperature of your oils in check. Some spatulas just to smooth things out. This is really another important tool, an immersion blender. A lot of people have these, but not everybody does. This is literally the only thing we use an immersion blender for, but it's really important for part of the saponification process. And then you're going to need a stove to heat up your oils. All right, we're going to start by heating up our oils. So we want all of our oils to be in liquid form. And as you can see, we have olive oil that's already in liquid form, but our two harder oils, our coconut oil and our vegetable shortening, are both solid right now. So we're going to heat them up over the stove to about 110 to 120 degrees. This can go pretty quickly, so you want to kind of pay close attention and keep your eyes on it, because once it's too hot, it takes a long time to cool back down. If the oils are too hot when you add them to the lye and milk mixture to make your soap, it can also burn the milk, and you don't want burnt soap.
I'll stop the world and melt with you. You've seen the difference and it's getting better all the time. There's nothing you and I won't do. I'll stop the world and melt with you.
All right, now I'm going to add the already liquid olive oil, about 15 ounces, to the hot oil here, which will help cool it off just a bit. And you can kind of see it's blended well together there. And we're going to check the temperature and make sure we get it to about 115 to 120 degrees. All right, we're going to check our oils with a thermometer here, instant thermometer, and see what we're at. Again, we want it around 115 to 125. So I think we're right about there. All right, next we're gonna crush up our frozen goat milk. So I've actually taken this 13-ounce block of frozen goat milk, put it in the microwave for about 30 seconds just so it's easy enough to chop. And we're gonna kind of chop it up like a slushie because we want as much surface area as possible for the lye to interact with all of this good fatty milk. The bigger the chunks and ice crystals, the harder it is to incorporate. So you want nice uniform chunks. All right, that looks pretty good. Okay, we have a nice metal bowl. Metal's really important because it won't transfer heat in the same way to plastic. We're going to put that in directly into our ice bath here so that it stays nice and cold. And I'm going to scrape all of this milk into our bowl. Again, we want to keep everything super cold because once we add the sodium hydroxide or lye, it's going to create a super exothermic reaction, give off a ton of heat, and be at risk for burning our milk, which we do not want. All right, I'll wipe my hands off. This is the part where you probably should have some rubber gloves. If you're working with kids or first-timers, you probably want to wear some goggles too. I'm a 40-year-old man, and so I naturally like to risk my life regularly, and so I'm not going to use goggles today. This is our 6 ounces of lye. You can get lye at any hardware store, Amazon. This is literally like what I said, will actually unclog pipes. This, you always want to add this to the milk, not the other way around, okay? So I'm going to add just a little bit at a time, and using a nice metal spoon, I'm going to continuously mix it. And you'll see that it starts to melt very quickly. You want to add just a little bit at a time. Make sure you're constantly stirring it. Get as much of the milk incorporated. If this solution with lye were to touch your skin, it would create a pretty significant burn from the severe basic chemistry. And so you'd want to wash that off as best you could. Sometimes people say add like a weak vinegar to your skin to help neutralize the base. See how it's already melting all those ice crystals down? And we still have lye left. Okay, so we have our lye and milk mixture that's been sitting and activating. We have our warm oils that are about 120 degrees. And so now we're going to combine those and we're going to mix them and start the saponification process, which is the act of making soap. So very gently, we're going to pour this in, get all the oils, and then we want to agitate it. And so we want to mix this for about 5 minutes. So my favorite way to count 5 minutes is to pick your favorite song that's about 5 minutes and put it on the radio. Alexa, play Light of a Clear Blue Morning by Dolly Parton. Okay, so we've mixed for about 5 minutes. We're still in this sort of slurry liquid phase. So at this point, we're going to add our colorant, our mica powders. Interestingly, mica powders, when we lived in North Carolina, in rural North Carolina, we traveled through a little town called Micaville, which is well known for its minerals, its mica. And so these are cosmetic grade mica powders that will help color our soap naturally. And then I'm going to use my immersion blender to bring it to trace, which is where we're going to take it from a liquid to more of like a pudding. So it's going to be a little noisy here. This might take a minute or two. It's making that nice, beautiful blue aqua color that we like to see. This stuff is still pretty caustic, so again, you probably should wear gloves or goggles, because if it splashes up in your eyes, you could be in trouble.
Mixing it up, making a mess, but that's just half the fun, I guess. We give and we take, a layer of cake. Together it's magic that we make. We
Just now starting to thicken up a little bit more. You can see the bubbles look different. It's a little more like pudding. So I'm going to stop here, take this off and get it in our sink. Okay, the last step, we're going to add our essential oils. This is eucalyptus and peppermint mixed together. And you don't have a lot of time at this phase. You just want to gently mix that in. Sometimes it helps to use your immersion blender one more time, just to kind of make sure it... So we have our soap here. It's still very warm. I'm going to pour it. It's like a thick pudding, and I'm going to pour it in here. It helps to have somebody who's behind you smoothing it. I always make a big mess, and Allie always saves me here. You can see how it's thickening up even as I pour it. You want it to be smooth enough to fill all the nooks and crannies of these molds. If you don't fill all the nooks and crannies, you'll have holes in your soap and it won't look real cool. We typically get about 12 bars of soap in a batch, 11, 12, something like that. I like to make square and circle. It does make for a mess on your countertop, but the good news is it's just soap, so it's pretty easy to clean. All right, so we have about 12 bars of soap that has been smoothed off, and we're going to let it sit. Typically, we'll let it sit and harden and finish molding into those molds for at least a day or two, sometimes 3, before we kind of unpack them and check them out. And they will continue to be chemically active for really about a month. And so they're really not able to be used until about 3 or 4 weeks after you've unfolded them.
That smells good.
All right, it's been about 24 hours. And like I said, sometimes we'll do it 24 hours, 48, 72 hours. We'll unmold these. So we're going to try one, see how it looks. And just gently peel them out. And there we go. A nice bar of soap. Actually turned out pretty good. Then we'll let it sit for another day or two before we usually then stamp them with our little goat stamp. So we'll put it on there, make a nice indentation, and then send it downstairs to the basement to cure for up to about a month before we send it off to craft shows or give it to our friends or use it ourselves. Thanks for watching.